You're right, guys. So, what I want to do today is talk you through 5 different things that I did in order to increase my bench press. So, now when I first started lifting, I was doing 40 kg. I was repping that, and now it's 2.5 years later, and I'm trying to get 3 plates. I think it's realistic that I will get 3 plates by this summer. So, I think it's fair to say that I've made quite a bit of progress in quite a short amount of time. And along the way, I've learned quite a lot about bench pressing and about ways that you can get out of plateaus and ways that you can keep improving when you make the transition from being a beginner lifter to an intermediate lifter. So hopefully if you take a couple of things that I say on board, it'll help you to prevent plateaus or to get out of them if you're already in them. I had a massive plateau when I was on 97 kilos for the bench, and that was like the most frustrating time you could hit one because I couldn't get 2 plates. And I was in that for like 8 months or something stupid, but I figured out ways of adapting and become more intelligent in my training that helped me to get out of it. So, without further ado, we'll begin. So, the first tip I would give is to get stronger across a variety of rep ranges, not just the heavy rep ranges. So the way in which I do that is that I incorporate a heavy session, a medium session, and a light session in terms of weight. So from a heavy session, I do somewhere in the 3 to 6 rep range. So I'll pick a weight that I can only do for 3 reps, and then I'll work on it each week-ish. And when I get to a point where I can do 6 reps, I'll add on 2.5 kilos. And I'm pairing that with a medium and a light session where I'm doing 5-10 kg less for the medium session and then 10-20 kg less for the light session. So for a light session, you can get quite a lot of reps, and I feel like getting in that experience with having a lot of the lighter weights and getting in more reps really helps you to first off build up that mind muscle connection, but also to just build up a base. And I feel like that single heavy session that I'm doing a week is propelled a lot more by the lighter sessions that are pushing it forwards. In a sense, it's more just like the heavy sessions just me peaking, and then the medium and the light sessions are what's giving it like the drive behind it. So I'd really recommend doing that. The second piece of advice is to focus on one sort of thing at a time. Now, what do I mean by this? One, the majority of people who are lifting are doing a push-pull leg split, right? And with the bench press, it's not actually that taxing of a lift. You can recover from it quite quickly. So a lot of powerlifters, they're benching like 4 times a week. And that's a feasible thing to do where it isn't with a squat and a deadlift. And that's because it's not as big as muscles that you use and things like that. But if you're pairing the bench press with the squat and the deadlift, they're really taxing for your central nervous system. So you're not able to recover in time from the squat and the deadlift session, and that'll impact your bench training. And it can be a bit more of a limiting factor. So what I would recommend doing, if you really, really just want to focus on the bench press and get that stronger, is to put the leg work and maybe the back and biceps work on a bit of a hold, like briefly. So you're more trying to maintain on them than you really focus on your bench press and your push days. So instead of running a traditional push-pull leg split where I'm training 6 days a week, I'm sort of doing a 4-day split now. So I'm doing like push legs, push-pull, and I'm taking a rest day whenever I want. And this allows me to basically bench every 48 hours, not having much impact in my central nervous system that'll impact those days. And then on top of that, I'm still doing enough volume on the back and on the legs to maintain without really having to focus on them too much. My next piece of advice is to experiment with different pieces of equipment. There isn't really much to say on this, but I would recommend getting some wrist wraps. They're about like 10 quid on Amazon. Elbow wraps you might like, I don't use them. Some people use weightlifting belts for bench presses, I don't really. But that equipment, when it's legal in powerlifting, even if you're not trying to compete in that, it's not something that's legal. But it's these little things that can really give you a bit of a benefit. And especially with the wrist wraps, it really helps me to like tolerate a higher volume of training without having it taxing on my joints. But yeah, I'd really, there's not much to say, but I'd really recommend them. So my next piece of advice is to really optimize your setup on the bench press. So I find it to be quite technical and quite fiddly thing to do. So here's a lot of cues that I can give you that really help me to just sort of make it feel like a natural movement that you can sort of push yourself on, rather than it feeling a bit more awkward. So what I do when I start on a bench is I put my shoulder blades together and down, and then dig myself into the bench. I grab the bar, whatever grip width you like, I know it's up to you. People recommend wider ones, but it's kind of personal preference. I grab the bar, and then you dig the bar as deep into your palms as you can, and then squeeze as tight as you can. So you're really trying to get it deep and then squeeze it. You want to feel like you're trying to bend the bar, like turning it into like an N shape. And then what you're going to want to do is shuffle your feet as far back as you comfortably can. Ideally, you want to get them under your bum, but you want to get them basically as far back it'll go in a comfortable position. Use that to lift your bum off the bench, unrack the bar, take it out to here, and then put your bum back down sort of as close to your shoulders as you can, within comfort. And then when you come down on the bench, you want to squeeze, and bending the bar is really going to help to keep everything tight. So you're going to row the bar down, and when it hits your chest, you want to push off on your heels like you're going backwards in an office chair and explode upwards. Now, that technique for me really helps keep everything feeling tight on the descent. And then when I push off, it feels sort of natural. It feels like I'm exploding. Breathing with the bench press, I feel like, is slight personal preference. So the actual best way to do it is to breathe in and out, brace, then down and up. But what a lot of people do, and I sort of tend to do, is as I'm coming up, I breathe out. So traditionally with lifting, you want to be breathing out as you exert the force, and then breathing in as you're sort of, doing the other half of the rep. But make sure that you've kind of got your breathing rhythmic, and especially that you're doing one breath per rep. So my final piece of advice is to experiment with deloads. Now, if you don't know what a deload is, it's kind of worth a whole video separate on its own. But it's essentially an active recovery week. So you're basically taking a week off, but you're still going to the gym, but you're just not trying very hard. So you maybe be doing 2/3 of the weight, 2/3 of the sets, 2/3 of the number of reps that you normally do. And I personally find that these are like the best thing ever. If you're doing one every like 2-3 months, you take that week. I find that because of all the stress you've accumulated coming up to this deload, when you actually take the deload, there's a phenomenon called supercompensation, and you actually make more progress during that week of not really trying very much, because your body's able to recover from all the stress that it's accumulated. And especially, I like to do it when I'm going towards my 1 rep max. So I'll be training for 2-3 months, and I'll be doing that heavy bench sessions in the 3 to 6 rep range. Then when I finally feel like I need a bit of a break, I've had too much, I feel a bit overly taxed from all the lifting, I'll take a deload week, and then the first session back I'll max out and see what I can do. And I find that has a lot of benefit on for me. If I take a full week off, when you come back, the weights you feel a bit stiff and the weights feel a bit heavier. And if you just take a few days off before going for a PR, it's not really enough time to recover. So I think deloads used properly are probably the best tool you have in preparation for 1 rep max. Right, so that's basically all the advice I've got. I hope you find some of it useful, and I hope it will prevent you from getting into a plateau or get out of one if you're already in one, but sucks to be you. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.